The entire state of Minnesota, if not nation, wonders, where is Jacob?
At 10, could we be a step closer to solving that 26-year-old mystery?
We consider him to be a person of interest in the Wetterling abduction.
Today, a man investigators say may be connected to the case. You'll hear from his neighbors.
And this would have been the last thing in the world I would have ever expected.
Investigators
I started crying.
and those who have followed the case since day one.
It just seemed like this day was never going to come.
Thanks for joining us tonight. It has been 26 years, but tonight, a watershed moment in the case of Jacob Wetterling.
A man who was questioned by FBI agents 4 times in the case is behind bars facing new charges tonight. 52-year-old Daniel Heinrich is charged with 5 counts of possessing child pornography after court documents show a search of his home turned up explicit images of young boys. Investigators also tell us DNA evidence now ties Heinrich to the sexual assault of a Cold Spring boy in 1989, before Jacob Wetterling disappeared. This sketch of the suspect released shortly after the crime.
We have team coverage of today's developments, but we start tonight in Annandale, where Jay Olstead is live with the disturbing evidence that led to Heinrich's arrest. Jay?
Yeah, Julie, police arrested Heinrich here at his home last night. As you can imagine, his neighbors were surprised to hear today that he is a person of interest in the Jacob Wetterling case, and no doubt they tell me they're disgusted after hearing what police say they took from this home.
First I was dumbfounded.
Neighbors describe the small white house and the person who lives there as pleasant, nothing to cause alarm.
It's been nicely kept up and maintained.
Mark Logier tells us he rarely even saw 52-year-old Daniel Heinrich come out of his house.
You just think that it's an elderly gentleman and he's retired and he's taking care of his place, doing what he's supposed to do and living life.
But investigators say they discovered something far more sinister inside. According to these court documents, back in July, investigators pulled out 19 3-ring binders that were filled with pictures of child pornography. They allegedly found video equipment, along with videotapes of kids secretly recorded on playgrounds, riding bikes, delivering newspapers. When detectives asked him about what they may find inside, court documents allege he told police he had child porn in his home, and they would find it, quote, pretty damning. Heinrich allegedly described himself as being addicted and that he was, quote, a dirty old man.
Man, you know, how can that be?
Neighbor Jerry Anderson is in disbelief, recalling friendly conversations with his neighbor.
Danny's lived on the corner for, I think, probably about 8 years now, and this would have been the last thing in the world I would have ever expected. There's a lot of kids in this neighborhood. We're a block away from a middle school.
With neighbors now wondering what else investigators may discover about a man they barely knew.
You know, he blended right in. We knew nothing about his past.
Yeah, and one neighbor told KARE 11 off camera today that after police searched Heinrich's home back in July, his mood changed. They say he lost a lot of weight and became despondent. Guys.
All right. Thank you, Jay. Heinrich does have a criminal history. He was arrested and charged with several crimes, some ultimately dismissed, but he was convicted of 2 counts of burglary that occurred in Stearns County in March of 1984. Those charges came 5 years before a Cold Spring boy was abducted and sexually abused.
That boy was assaulted 9 months before Jacob Wetterling's disappearance. Carla Holt joins us to explain how the 2 cases are connected. Carla?
His name is Jared Shirel, and KARE 11 introduced you to him a couple of times these last years. Jared was the boy attacked first, the one who has tried for so long to shed light on what happened to him and Jacob.
I'm not the only one associated with this case.
For years, Jared Shirel has searched for answers for him and one other.
He's never had a voice in any of this, and that's, hard for the family.
That was Jared in an interview I did with him last year. This was Jared back in 2004.
I was given directions saying, yeah, you go down this block.
When Jared first shared his story with KARE and the community, a story that parallels Jacob's. January 13th, 1989, a man stopped Jared, grabbed him, and drove him to a remote place. After the assault, the suspect let Jared go, using a command similar to the one told to Jacob's friend and brother, run.
Don't look back, or he threatened to shoot.
And the similarities between the cases didn't end there. Jared was 12, Jacob 11. The suspect, a lone white male with a low, gravelly voice. The attacks 10 miles apart, and each case had the threat of a gun. And so when Jacob disappeared, investigators jumped to review again what happened to Jared. Now to what we learned brand new today. According to the criminal complaint and search warrant, Daniel Heinrich was arrested in February 1990 in connection to Jared's case. He was later released. Also during that time, tire and shoe prints found at the scene of Jacob's abduction matched the car and shoe owned by Heinrich. But that, officials told us today, wasn't enough.
It often takes a unique mark on a tire impression, something, a cut or a similar thing on a shoe to say that it is an absolute match.
But what is absolute? According to documents and detectives, DNA found on Jared's sweatshirt worn the night of his attack matched that of Daniel Heinrich, a match made possible by today's forensic technology.
And so we have a big development in the case long ago linked to Jacob Wetterling, but the catch, this case will not see any prosecution. The statute of limitations has run out. I've talked and messaged with Jared dozens of times these last 24 hours. He is so courageous and so exhausted, but Jared calls today a bittersweet victory. I also talked with Patty. She is calm and hopeful, but she's seen many leads before. The Wetterlings spent time with Jared yesterday. They consider him an adopted son, connected Randy and Julie by painful shared histories.
So Carla, you did a great job of putting this all in perspective and why the two cases might be linked, but we still don't really know why that July search warrant, why July was that search warrant executed, and why today they decided to come out and make that big announcement, do we?
There are still some gaps in the timeline, absolutely, Julie, and we asked a lot of specific questions to the investigators, to the officials today. They often said it is an ongoing, active investigation. They will disclose more at the appropriate time.
All right. Thanks, Carla.
Well, the Wetterling family did release a statement today following the news. They thanked all involved in the investigation of Daniel Heinrich and said the search for Jacob is an ongoing investigation and we will watch and learn with everyone else. They asked that anyone who knows anything call the Stearns County Sheriff's Office. Before Daniel Heinrich lived in Annandale, he called Paynesville home.
In the 1980s, several boys were assaulted there as well. Those cases remain a mystery, but as Bua Zhang found, still on the minds of many people. Bua?
Hi, Julie and Randy. Paynesville is a small town with a population just over 2,000 people, and it seemed everywhere we went today, Heinrich's name was on everyone's mind.
It was a time when everybody really started watching their kids a lot more.
It's a mystery that has haunted Paynesville. Authorities say from 1986 to 1988, several young boys ages 12 to 16 were assaulted. No one was ever charged. But a search warrant for Danny Heinrich's home has residents wondering what might have happened all those years ago.
The name was familiar.
At Paynesville Total Entertainment Center, owner Gene Soini recognized Heinrich's name after hearing it on the news.
So I looked at my computer, and sure enough, he'd been a customer that came in here. Had his address and everything in there. So
Jean remembers Heinrich as a quiet guy, a loner, and not outgoing. She believes she may have sold him blank VHS tapes. Now she fears what those tapes may have been used for.
It's kind of creepy.
Authorities say in the late 80s, Heinrich lived down the street at Plaza Apartments. There were 8 reported assaults of boys while he lived there. All happened within blocks of his apartment. But he was never named a suspect. The unknown kept parents like Jean and Sherry Paninsky, who was a young mother of an 8-year-old boy then, on edge.
Groups of kids stayed together. Parents watched over their children much more conscientiously than they had done before, I think.
Their boys now have kids of their own, but these mothers can't quite shake the fear they felt 30 years ago.
It just scares you to death, even if it's not your own child.
And Heinrich's brother still lives in the Plaza Apartments behind me. We did try to knock on the door earlier today, but there was no answer. One resident I spoke with didn't want to go on camera, but she told me that she knew both Danny Heinrich and his brother. She said that she couldn't comment tonight because all of this information is just too much to take in. Randy and Julie.
All right. Thank you, Bua.
We have continuing coverage of this case at KARE11.com. There you'll find what we know about Daniel Heinrich, including the full video of today's news conference. You can also view a photo gallery of the Jacob Wetterling case through the years.
Other news tonight, a federal judge is running out of patience when it comes to the Minnesota sex offender program. Federal Judge Donovan Frank ordered the state to immediately evaluate all 720 offenders in the program to decide which ones can be moved to less restrictive settings. Earlier this year, the judge ruled the program unconstitutional. Governor Dayton reacted sharply to the decision.
Imply even that he would consider canceling the entire program and dumping people in large numbers onto the streets of Minnesota. I think it was extremely inappropriate.
Human Services Commissioner Lucinda Jessen says it would take action by the legislature to expedite the new psychological evaluations. They're asking the court to suspend the ruling until the state can appeal.
Still ahead at 10, a desperate search for clues behind a deadly hit and run in St. Paul.
Plus, the milestones in the kidnapping case that captivated the entire nation. Tonight, a look at Jacob Wetterling's lasting impact.
And Grand Avenue parking meters pulled even before they get the green light. Belle?
Well, in weather, we're going to see some sunshine return. Let's take a look at tomorrow as we move through the day. We'll start out at 41. We'll top out at 52. We do have rain coming in tomorrow night. Here are your weather headlines. We do expect that rain will move through tomorrow night, and then a Halloween forecast ahead that looks pretty good. And how about a November heat wave? We'll have it all coming up in just a couple of minutes.
Tonight, a break in a decades-old cold case is met with shock across Minnesota. The 1989 abduction of Jacob Wetterling touched many families across the state. So many of us lived the experience growing up as the investigation took twists and then turned cold.
The case left an indelible mark in our memories as time went by, and we grieved with the Wetterling family. Boyd Hooper joins us now to explain the lasting impact this case has had.
Well, it sure has. You think about it, there's a young generation of Minnesotans who don't remember the Jacob Wetterling abduction. It may be hard for them to understand why this case still captivates us. Tonight, some perspective from two people who saw the story close up.
911 emergency.
We believe that they have one of the boys because one of the boys did not come back with them.
And yes, he's 11.
Jacob Wetterling.
Before Jacob Wetterling was the poster child for missing children, he was Patty and Jerry Wetterling's little boy.
We love him.
As Minnesotans, we felt their anguish.
Couldn't possibly imagine it.
But few more closely than the reporters who shared the experience firsthand.
My son was about the same age as Jacob at the time. And when you're a parent, you just go, wow, how can the Wetterlings get through this?
Alan Costantini has covered thousands of stories in his 31 years at KARE 11, but only one gnaws at him.
It's right there. I see it every day. Here was this sweet little boy, this 11-year-old kid, who was doing everything right. He asked permission of his parents to go to the store. He went with his good friend and his younger brother, so there were three of them at the time. And, it's just heartbreaking.
My whole name is Jacob Irvin Wetterling.
He became Minnesota's child. He was a part of our lives. He was our part of our lives from the day it happened.
Caroline Lowe covered Jacob's case for WCCO before moving to San Luis Obispo, California.
I have this picture at my desk I've kept all these years. I have a stone that says hope that Patty gave me on my going away party.
Today, she reacted from afar.
I started crying. It was such an emotional feeling that this chapter could be close to coming to an end. Such a part of our lives for so many years, and it shaped how we raised our children.
Just too long. Just been too long.
Reporters who spent time with Jerry and Patty as the anniversaries came and went with the leads and disappointments.
So I'd come down here and just be for a while.
Those reporters speak often of the Wetterlings' strength.
In 1989, when this happened, there weren't Amber Alerts. None of these things had happened yet. A lot of the child protection laws that have happened since, a lot of them spurred on by Patty's efforts, came later, and they came because of Jacob.
Because, we still haven't found out where he is.
Much light shed today, but still so much to learn.
What I keep thinking of is, where's Jacob? Where are you, Jacob? When are you coming home?
Caroline Lowe expressed hope that those answers will now come, that the so-called person of interest, if he did this, will find it in his heart to share that with authorities so Jacob's family can finally say goodbye. She said, they need it, we all need it.
Boy, I guess so.
Isn't that true? I mean, that would just be, even today, saying a person of interest, I thought I didn't even know if I would ever say that
Right. Yeah.
in regards to this particular case. And he may not have anything to do with it. But just the fact that the authorities came out and said that today, you think about the Wetterlings and how that must affect them.
Well, and that's what Carolyn Lowe talked about too, is we've known over the years how close to the best authorities have held information,
Right.
and for them to come out with so much information today is a positive sign toward a solution to this case.
Thanks so much, Boyd.
All right, thank you, Boyd. We're going to jump outside where the weather is not too bad right now.
Not bad at all. No wind, no snow, no rain. All those things, of course, we've dealt with in the last 36 hours. Let's take a look at what we're expecting as we move through the rest of your week and head into the Halloween weekend and, of course, the beginning of November. Today, we topped out at 49. The sun tried to peek out a couple of times, but at least the rain moved away and the wind died down. And when it comes to daytime highs this month, pretty remarkable. All of the red shaded days are above average. So there actually are only 10 days as of today, as the 29th, only 10 days that we were below average. And really the first 4 were just because the averages were just a tad higher at the beginning of the month. It was a remarkable month of October. A lot of people will remember the weekend of the 10th and 11th when it was 74 and 85. And right now, as we speak, we just dropped to 3.3 as I looked at the data, but 3.3 degrees above average for the month. Now we take a look at Halloween. Of course, it can come in many flavors. 83 the warmest, 26 the coldest, and of course in 1991 was the wettest and the snowiest. Before midnight, 8.2 inches. After midnight, quite a bit more, and when it was all said and done, 21 inches in that 24-hour period that many people do remember from 1991. So quiet tonight, but we're all eyes off to the west because we will get some rain tomorrow night. Now, a couple of good things have happened. It looks like the bulk of the rain is going to be tomorrow night and moving out early Saturday morning. So that does mean that most of Halloween for most of the state will be dry and also a little warmer. So we'll start with some sunshine tomorrow, and we will top out at 52 degrees. We'll have a few breaks in the afternoon where we'll see that sun, and then we have rain moving in tomorrow night. Here is the planner. As you can see, tomorrow morning, clouds in the morning, then here comes some sunshine at lunchtime, and then here comes the rain after about 8 o'clock tomorrow night, and it moves through by 6 a.m. It's cloudy when you wake up on the morning of Halloween, but as the day progresses, we actually get some sunshine, and we will top out at 55 degrees. And as the kids are heading out, the skies should be partly cloudy. Then Sunday looks great. We're going to be topping out at around 60 degrees with a few passing clouds. Here's your evening planner for Saturday night. The sun does set just after 6 o'clock, so it'll get dark by the end of the 6 o'clock hour, and we will dip down from the mid-50s down to about 52. The winds will be relatively light. So for the weekend, 55 and 60, not too bad. Of course, on Sunday, daylight saving time, or Central Standard Time, I should say, does resume. So we do fall back on Saturday night, get that extra hour. And we do expect it to be mainly dry with just some early morning showers. There's the sunset Saturday. And yes, we all knew that it was coming, but 5:01 on Sunday night for that sunset. It will be 60. Now, here's a little bit of that November heat wave I hinted at. It should be 51. We're going to hit 64 and 65 on Monday and Tuesday, the beginning of November. 60 degrees on Wednesday with a few clouds, and then we dip on Thursday to 54. But not too bad. The timing of the rain looks good. Halloween looks good. Next week looks great as we move into November.
All right. Thank you, Belle.
All right.
Well, we had planned to bring you a KARE 11 News investigation tonight about teenage homelessness in Minnesota. Obviously, given the news of the day, we've decided to now air that story on Monday night at 10 o'clock.
Well, new tonight, St. Paul police would like help solving a hit and run that ended up killing a 49-year-old woman. Good Samaritans found Antoinette Boxer lying in the street at University on Tuesday night around 9:45. As they rushed to her and called 911, they say the driver of a gray sedan ran her over. Investigators are trying to determine why Boxer was in the street and who was driving that car. If you know anything or saw anything, you're urged to call St. Paul Police.
New tonight at 10, St. Paul Mayor Chris Coleman has confirmed a plan for parking meters on Grand Avenue has been tabled. The mayor credited opposition from the ward's current and future council members as the reason behind scrapping the plan. Coleman says he still believes there is strong support for the meters despite recent protests at public hearings. Sports is next with another night of prep football action.
Plus, a high school volleyball player overcomes a serious health issue to win a college scholarship.
KARE 11 Sports from the Mayo Clinic Sports Medicine Sports Desk.
Smack dab in the middle of crunch time in high school's fall season, and that includes volleyball playoffs, where Dave Schwartz brings us a story of a young athlete who has already triumphed.
If Washburn senior Sydney Miller has learned anything in her high school volleyball career,
nice job.
It's that victories are rarely given.
Save it, save it, save it!
They're earned.
If you want to play good at volleyball, you always have to be the toughest and play the toughest.
And there aren't many tougher
I'll take it off.
than Sydney.
Our last tournament, she ripped a fingernail half off, and it was bleeding, and we had to call 2 timeouts to clean her up, and she didn't come out.
Her iron will comes from nearly a decade of struggle. At 9, she was diagnosed with scoliosis. At 14, she had 2 steel rods put into her back.
They're gigantic. They're huge, but the only thing I can't do is like a back bend or something, but I can play volleyball, I can dive, I can swing, I can block.
And quite well. She's committed to play at Division II Power Northern State next year, a dream that guided her through her recovery. She's also helped her Washburn team to a perfect 27-0 record and first conference title in 19 years, with hopes of a state title.
That would be like the cherry on top to everything that I've gone through.
While inner strength is certainly one of Sydney's strong suits, feeling sorry for herself isn't. That's made her one of the toughest teenagers you'll ever meet, and it's spread to the rest of her team, and that has been a great source of their success.
All the girls know what she's gone through, and they see her out there. She doesn't complain about any pain or anything, but she is always there fighting. So if she serves up that team...
Because the only battle she's faced bigger than the one on the court is the battle she fought in real life, and in both, she's proved she can earn those victories.
I'm pretty tough. I mean, I think scoliosis has been a very big thing to overcome, and I think it's really helped.
All right, big-time games, state football playoffs getting underway tonight with quarterfinals in Class 6A. Wayzata taking on Eastridge, where the Raptors win it on a 42-yard field goal. Game winner, Eastridge knocks off Wayzata 31-28, advancing to the semifinals. Lakeville North taking on Osseo. Orioles quarterback Malik Gaylord hitting DeMario Armstrong for an 8-yard TD. Orioles defeat Lakeville North 24-21 to advance to the semis. Pigskin playoffs continuing tomorrow and Saturday. Prep Sports Extra returns tomorrow at 10:15. We'll be back after this.
Before we go, Uber and animal shelters and rescue groups teamed up today to celebrate National Cat Day in a very unique way. Take a look. For a $30 fee, people in 50 cities, including Minneapolis, could request a kitten delivery. These are just some of the images tweeted out with the Uber Kitten hashtag. Customers had 15 minutes to cuddle and snuggle, but if people were smitten with their kittens, many were available for adoption.
Okay, that information came a little too late. We could have used a huge delivery of kittens today in the newsroom.
Absolutely.
And we could have gotten video of you. You'd have been entertained for months with that video. Randy,
oh my
how
gosh.
cute that is.
They are really cute.
Wow, that was a great way to end the show. Thanks for watching, everybody.
We'll see you tomorrow.